Okay, so this is the final part of my Jacqui video guide. Unfortunately, my Elgato and OBS had just totally stopped working. This is like my 6th attempt at recording this video, so screw it. I'm just going to use I finally got a PS4 headset, so I'm just going to use that. I know the sound quality is not quite as good, but whatever. You can hear me, you can see everything that's happening, so that's good enough. Alright, so, one thing that I forgot to mention in my other video guides is that everything in these guides is also in my written guide at testyourmight.com. So there's a link to that guide in the description here. So if you don't want to hear me ramble on for 20 or 30 minutes, just feel free to click that link and you can see everything you need to know about Jacqui in there. Alright, so let's just jump right on into it. With Jacqui, we've already covered her normals, her combos, her specials, all that good stuff. This guide is basically her neutral game and her general strategies on kind of how to use that stuff. It's like the glue that holds everything together. So, I'm going to break it down into Oki, or her wake-up game once she gets a knockdown. We're going to cover her neutral game as far as just kind of how to get that knockdown. We're going to go more in-depth in her forward 1-2 and her 1-2-1-2 pressure, and then a few additional little notes from there. I'm also live streaming this, so, if anyone asks any questions in the live stream, I'll be covering those in this video as well. This should be the last video of the guide, but depending on, I'm sure they're going to nerf Jacqui's gun because so many people are complaining about it. So based on updates, I'll continue to release more videos with updated information. So with that said, let's jump right on into it. So first, let's cover her neutral game, alright? Because this is how you're going to get your knockdowns. So, you're going to be shooting your opponent a lot. Jacqui, she's got a solid projectile. It's only 7% damage, but it hits 3 times, so it breaks armor. Your opponent basically has to neutral crouch it. You can't jump against Jacqui. If your opponent jumps at all, even late, on reaction, you can shoot them out. If you do it too early, that last bullet will almost always catch them in the foot and knock them down, and then they have to respect another gunshot on wake up. So you're going to be shooting your opponent a lot. You're not trying to deal damage as much as just keep them locked down and frustrate them. Okay, so by the end of your first match, your opponent should be neutral crouching. 90% of the time. They should either be neutral crouching and trying to counter zone, which there are a few characters who can counter zone Jacqui, or they should be kind of working their way in, okay? Jacqui's all about training her opponent to do what you want them to do. Alright, so right now, you want them neutral crouching from full screen. So, once you get them trained to respect your gun, to just know that at any point in time, you can bust out that almost instantaneous full screen 7%, 5% chip damage, that's when you can start messing with her dash shenanigans, as I call them. So Jacqui's dash is pretty damn fast. It's a solid dash. She's got great movement. Her back dash sucks. But her run, sorry. Her run has great speed. Her back dash sucks. Her forward dash sucks. Her walking speed is great, okay? But her run, that's what you want to focus on. So, once you get your opponent respecting that gun, you can start doing run shenanigans. Now, I like to go, and this is going to cover everything in this guide is based on my philosophy of totally safe with a lower reward to slightly less safe with a much higher reward, okay? So, with Jacqui, when she runs at her opponent, she's got 8 options, or 8 good options, I should say. And so, her first option, which is the safest but the lowest reward, is, okay, you're shooting, your opponent is just neutral crouching, so your shots are whiffing. Even though it goes right through his head, that's still whiffing. So you run, and your opponent sees you coming up, they stand up, and you shoot again. Alright? So it's literally, and you can watch any of my videos, I do this a lot, it's my favorite one to do, is just run and shoot. If they block it, you're safe. If it whiffs, it's safe. If they jump, as long as you're far enough away, you're safe. Alright, so it's a great way to kind of test your opponent's reactions and see how they're going to react to your run shenanigans. If they do, if they poke, then it's just going to whiff, and you'll know that they're going to poke, so you got to be careful trying to do your other ones. Alright, so just run, gun. It's a great starter. I do it constantly just to keep my opponent on their toes so that the other stuff will work even better. Alright? So next is her back 2. It already has pretty good range. So when you do it from a run, well, don't do it like that. You can almost instantly be up on them. Now when you're doing, she's got her forward 3, back 2. When you're doing it from a run, you don't need to do the forward 3. So just run, back 2. Oh, gotta reset my controller. Again, I'm playing on Hitbox. It's a third-party controller. It's a great controller, but on PS4 doesn't like third-party controllers, so I have to reset it every 8 minutes. Alright. So, run, back 2. Alright, and that's how you can get some of your really good damage. Well, when you have meter. We're going to cover meter management here in a second as well. So, get all that going on. That's going to whiff. So yeah, run back 2. Next is her run forward 3, back 4. Now this one's a little complicated, especially, I have an entire video dedicated to her forward 3, back 4, since it's such a pain in the ass to do. But once you get it down, you can start doing it. It's pretty easy to do it into the up missile. Again, just follow my guide on that. So you can run. Well, go into that, get your 39%. Alright, now if you're not comfortable doing that from a run, you can do her back 3D, but as you can see, the range on that is so low, or so bad, that you have to get right up on your opponent. Okay, so if they are poking when they see you dash cancel, you're not going to be able to do that, but if they're not, just run up. If you don't have meter, get your 23%. If you do have meter, get your 40%. If you don't whiff like I do. Alright. Next is down back 3. Okay, this is another super safe option that I love to do. So say, you run in and you do your litmus test and your opponent pokes. Alright, as soon as they see you dash, they start poking. That means you're not going to be able to do your run back 2. You're not going to be able to run and do your back 3-3. What you can do is stop way back here and launch them with the rocket for 14% if you hit with all 3. You have all the time in the world to combo from that. It is possible if you do it close enough, you can combo, but the timing is kind of strict. I usually won't do that online. I'll just play it safe. And bang, get my 14%. That's good enough. Alright, so just run. Missile. Alright, now what you have to watch out for is this missile. From back here it's going to whiff, so you have to be within their jump range. Alright, so that's another reason why you want to do that litmus test first with the hand cannon, is because if you run up and you see them jumping, then you don't want to be doing your low missile because they're going to jump and get a full combo punish. Alright? So, but low missile's great if they're poking. Most people poke. Very few people jump against Jacqui. However, if you do see, if you do your litmus test and they're trying to jump it, and they're jumping consistently, a crazy safe option that leads to 31% meterless damage is just up missile. If they jump that, it's really easy. Jump forward. Just 3-3, back forward 4. 31% meterless. Even if they don't jump, if they poke, if they do pretty much anything, that's totally safe. It recovers almost instantly. So it's a really safe option. Okay, from back here they can't jump in. If they do jump in, they get hit, and you get your run canceling at 31%. If they poke, pretty much if they do anything, you're safe. Most people aren't going to do a whole lot because you've already trained them with your gun, alright? The whole first round, you just want to be shooting the hell out of your opponent, just to train them. It's not spamming, it's not anything, you're training your opponent. Alright, so, say you're doing all that stuff, and they just keep blocking, they're fuzzy guarding your lows, and your overheads, and your gun, and they're not jumping, you say you can't do that, and they're blocking low on your missile, well, just run through. Throws are a pain in the ass to break in this game. If they're holding block, they can't break it, so they have to be neutral crouching, which they are probably doing, but it's still hard to break, so just run, throw. So unblockable, 12%. It leaves you neutral. A lot of throws in this game leave you at advantage. Jacqui's does not. So just run, throw. Don't do that. But it's always, never forget about run, throw. Next is her jump 3, alright? So this is another super safe option. It's kind of like her gun, where it's more of a test than an actual, effective attack. But if you run and jump 3, you get your 7%, you get a soft knockdown and knocked in towards the corner. Her jump 3 is 12 active frames, so it just kind of hangs out there. It's a great attack with a lot of priority. It's going to beat them if they blow poke. It's going to beat them if they jump. It's going to beat them, is gonna beat them. So just run, jump 3 if they don't block, and you don't, do it from a bad range like that. Then 9 times out of 10, you're gonna beat your opponent. You can cancel into her, what is it? Her smash. There you go, for a 15% combo. The timing's a little weird on it. It's very inconsistent, but if they block it, that'll still come out. So just jump 3, down, down 4. Means if they block it, they have to block high and low, but there's a huge gap there, so it's it's not impossible to do, but it will catch a lot of people off guard. So yeah, that's it's not her best option, but it is 90% safe. It's just a good thing to throw out there just to keep your opponent in check. Alright, and finally is her forward 1-2, which we already know from her normals. That's her main pressure string. You get all your meterless damage off of there. I actually prefer doing that than wasting a meter to get 37%, because again, that's just lower than what I like my meter efficiency to be. So forward 1-2 is already her best range normal. If you use it from a dash, I mean, you can basically almost immediately cancel. It's literally just dash directly into forward 1-2, and you can hit from, pretty damn far. Okay? So even from all the way back here, get that going, don't whiff it like that. This is a really bad guide on spacing, but, it'll cover the general strategies. Alright, so those are her 8 run cancel options. So once you train your opponent, remember step 1 is training your opponent, then you can start, messing with Jacqui's awesome movement, kind of walk around outside their range. Get that going. The thing you need to remember is that all of her combos require run cancels, and so if you're full screen and you don't have full meter, don't do any of these run shenanigans except for the ones that don't require run cancels. So you can still do machine gun, you can still do rocket, and you can still do run throw. Alright, but any other one except in the corner is going to require run cancels. In the corner you can go ham, just because everything is meterless. I can run up, get all this going. Oh. Every single time I record one of these videos, I miss all of my combos. Alright. So next, let's see. Yeah, let's go ahead and cover her forward 1-2. Okay. So forward 1 is her best range normal. And that's, well, back 2 reaches a little further. And then of course forward 3, back 2 is great. Forward 3, back 3. But forward 1-2 is where most of your pressure is going to come from. It hits mid. It's relatively fast. I mean, it's 15 frames, so it's not the fastest normal, but for the range, it's pretty good. It's also totally neutral on block. It's plus, what is it? Plus 18 on hit, which is great. So just forward 1 alone is just a great attack. You can usually kind of... Oh, let me reset my controller again. Alright, so you can just kind of throw that out and get your pressure going.
Aw, damn.
And she says, aw, damn, which I love. If you do 1-2, that's a hard knockdown. We covered hard knockdowns a little bit in a previous guide, but I'll just go ahead and reiterate. So, if I uppercut Jason, that's a soft knockdown, which means he can tech roll. Which means he gets up faster, he rolls back. It's just, tech rolls are great. Jacqui needs to tech roll a lot because her wake-ups are ass. Which I'd probably make a guide about that. But anyway, so... he can tech roll, but if I hit with forward 1-2, he can't tech roll. He's within range of all of my mix-ups, and you're at plus 33, yeah, plus 33, alright? So the only thing you have to watch out for are delayed wake-ups, but he's stuck there. He has to eat whatever you decide to do, which again, I like to go from safest to less safe, so machine gun is great. It's going to break armor. We'll cover that here in a sec. Yeah, so there's forward 1-2. If you do confirm, you get your 30% meterless damage. Really easy combo. It looks hard because it requires a run cancel, but it's crazy easy. Okay. So, but that's all on hit. What about on block? So forward 1 is neutral, and forward 1-2 are neutral. Alright? So once you train your opponent, so you want to start out doing the full combo, because that's plus 11, alright, he can't do anything. There's only a 4-frame gap, which means he can armor through if he has meter, but that's it, alright? And you can, just do, mix it up with some other stuff and keep him guessing, alright? So the only way to avoid that is to duck it. Which means that after a little while, when you start hitting your opponent with forward 1-2, they're going to start crouch blocking. Alright, when you notice your opponent crouch blocking, that's when you want to start switching things up. Now this is still almost entirely safe. That move recovers so quickly that pretty much the only thing he can do if he does duck it is try to poke you. There are a lot of times where that'll whiff and I'll still be able to jump over and get jump in pressure started just because your opponent, waits a split second before they try to poke and it's too late. The forward 1-2 that is almost entirely safe. Okay, so once you start noticing them ducking it, that's when the fun begins, okay? So, forward 1 is totally neutral on block. They're expecting this whole string, and forward 1 leaves you, right next to your opponent, okay? So that's when you can start doing a bunch of mix-up options off of forward 1. So my favorite is just forward 1 throw. Her throw is 10 frames. And it's already difficult to break throws in this game. Most people are blocking this close anyway, so I've never seen forward 1 throw fail. Forward 1 throw, once you get your opponent trained, 100% of the time it has worked for me. Alright, so it's just forward 1 throw. It's an easy 12% damage. It leaves you neutral, but Jacqui's got a pretty solid neutral game, so it's great. Next, and this one's a little harder to do, is forward 1, back 2. Alright, so most people, as soon as you hit with that forward 1, they're going to be neutral crouching. So if you do forward 1, back 2, it hits a lot. I'd say a good 75% of the time. Just forward 1, back 2. Now you have to be careful if you do the back 2 too early, she'll do forward 1, 2. But luckily that 2 is neutral on block as well. A lot of people will poke after the 2, just because they know if they do a low poke, the missile is still going to whiff. So if you're against a good opponent, no matter what, they're going to poke after that forward 1-2 is blocked. But that's fine. If you do accidentally do the 1-2, just block or, go for a cross-up pressure. Alright. Next is forward 1-1. Okay? Duck. Now see how that whiffs? It'll actually, against some characters, it'll still connect even if they're blocking. And if you do it early enough, like if I just spam it, it hits. And I'm sure you can practice it. There we go. Yeah, so if you time it right, if you do the link, which is a little hard to do online, you can get it to connect. If you wait too long though, it will whiff. So you kind of have to hit them while they're still in like that animation of coming down. And the reason this is so good, we're actually going to cover it next, is her 1-2, 1-2 string is amazing. Just absolutely phenomenal string. Okay, so we're going to cover that here in a second. Just know that forward 1, 1-2, 1, 1, 1-2, 1-2, anything off of 1, 1, 1, 4, those are all great, okay? Okay. Let's see. Next is forward 1-2, down 3. Yeah, so her forward 1-2 strings, I actually have in my written guide some extensions off of that. I've actually stopped using those just because as people learn Jacqui, they do start low poking after the forward 1-2. So, I mean, you can do like forward 1-2, down 3, but it'll trade with a lot of pokes or just get straight up beaten out. Because her down 3, I think, is 7 frames, and there are a lot of 6-frame down 3s in this game. It's 8 frames, yeah. So, I mean, she gets beaten out. Her poke game is not great. So, yeah, I mean, if your forward 1-2 gets blocked, I recommend either going for a jump up, jump over pressure, or just a backdash. Now, backdashes in this game have invincibility. Because they know you can do up missile, most players aren't going to try to use a special or any other move other than a low poke. So forward 1-2 backdash works, I mean, pretty much every time. It's forward 1-2 backdash. If you do hit, let's set him to wake up Let's see, let's keep that on because he can't tech roll. Forward 1, 2, backdash. Oh, oops, there we go. Shoulder charge. Let's change all of this. Okay, always shoulder charge. Let's see. I haven't actually tested this. Oh wait, no, we do want wake up. Sorry. Okay, what am I doing? Okay, here we go, shoulder charge. So if I do knock them down with that, you still have enough time to use that, and it's going to beat out armor. Because that's a hard knockdown, you're at plus 33. And shoulder charge is a relatively fast move. So, backdash that, it works. I need to test it against Jax's dash punch to see exactly how safe it is. But for the most part, if you accidentally hit with that and don't confirm an up missile, just backdash rock machine gun, and they have to respect it. So that's pretty much it for forward 1, 2. All right. So let's go ahead and cover her 1, 2, 1, 2 mix-ups galore. All right. So, as a punishment tool, 1, 2, 1, 2 is great because it's a 7-frame startup. I think it's still 7. They've been messing with her frames a lot. Everyone's frames, really. Yeah, 7-frame startup, okay? So, forward 1, 2 is my go-to punisher for unsafe specials, but it's 15 frames. Oops. Okay? So, say someone uses a move that is safer than 15 frames, that's where 1, 2, 1, 2 comes in, okay? So if you know it's going to hit, you can just do the full string 1, 2, 1, 2, back, forward, 4. Or 1, 2, 1, 2, meter burn, up missile. And don't whiff it like me because I'm horrible at this game. There we go. Okay. But say it's someone like Jax who uses dash punch. It's -7, so you can't really punish it, but you can get your pressure started, okay? Well, here's where it gets crazy. Always. Her 1 is neutral, her 1, 2 is neutral, her 1, 2, 1 is neutral, and her 1, 2, 1, 2 are all neutral. Same with 1, 1 and 1, 1, 4. Those are all neutral, okay? Her 1 is only 7 frames, so if they're not crouching, you can almost always restart the pressure. If they are crouching, the 2 comes out on the 16th frame, and it's a mid. Since most pokes in this game are about 8 frames, 7 or 8 frames, that means your opponent only has 8 or 9 frames to realize that you stopped your string. Okay, and then they can poke. So what you can do is when you do get someone like, say, Jax uses his dash punch and you block it, so now he knows he has to block, you can do like a 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. Alright? He has to know, he has to predict when you're going to end your string and when you're going to start it again. So you can, I like to have specific patterns mapped out, such as 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, so that you can kind of get the timing down. It's very hard to do this type of pressure just totally randomly, but when you get that down, it can be a very effective pressure tool. Again, it's all about training your opponent. Early on in the game, you want to let them know you can do that full 1, 2, 1, 2, and the 1, 2, 1, 2, back, forward, 4. Alright? They should know that you've got all of that going on, so that when you do just do a 1, 2, 1, they're expecting that last hit, and that leaves you time to get your 1, 2, 1, 2 going on. It's crazy effective in the corner because 1, 2, you don't follow them. So if I do 1, it doesn't push them back. If I do 1, 2, 1, it pushes them back, but I follow. And if you do 1, 2, 1, 2, it's the same deal. You follow even more. Alright, but if I do 1, 2, that pushes them back, okay? So you can really only get 1 repetition of that before it pushes them back too far. And in the corner, I can't remember. Yeah, it pushes you out of the way. So 1, 2 is not as great. But 1, 2, 1 and 1, 2, 1, 2 all keep you right into your opponent's face. And it can be very hard, especially online, for your opponent to deal with. So from those, you still have the same options as your forward 1. Alright, so you could do like 1 throw, or 1, 2, 1 throw. You can do 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1. Well, 1, 2, 1. Back 2. Which is hard to do because if you do the back 2 too early, it'll count as the last 2 of the 1, 2, 1, 2 string, and your 1, 2, 1, 2 will come out. But yeah, just practice that a ton. If you do end up accidentally hitting, it's cool because the 1 is 11 frames of advantage. Everything else is over 25. I mean, look at 45 hit advantage. That's crazy. The only one is 1, 2, 1, 2 is only 9 frames of hit advantage. But that's still enough. 1, 2, 1, 2. It knocks them back to within your forward 1 range. So it's only 9 frames of advantage, but it's still very hard to poke out of that. They only have about 6 frames to do it, and because of the range, it can be hard for them to connect in time. But if you do notice that any of these hit, at any point, if you do just really quick 1, 2, 1, 2, if you watch my inputs, you can see how quick I'm doing it. 1, 2, 1, 2. The whole string is going to come out, so I do 1, 2, 1, 2, and notice any of it hits. I can then choose to put in, say, back 4, 3 if I don't have meter. Or the meter burn rockets if I do. For a good 38% mid-screen combo. Alright, so, a few little caveats. Let's see. In order to train your opponent to know that you can do 1, 2, 1, 2 special, I don't recommend doing 1, 2, 1, 2 back forward 4. Because that back forward 4 is minus 30 on block. So if they do block it, you're going to get full combo punished. A few of her safer options are 1, 2, 1, 2 low missile, which if it hits, you get a really easy combo. But it doesn't, see how it doesn't combo? It's 4 hits and then a separate hit. So you do have to be careful there. If they block it, it can whiff against a lot of characters. So be careful with that. It's really not a great option. 1, 2, 1, 2 hand cannon is good, but you do have to watch out for low pokes if they're already blocking low. The hand cannon will still deal 5% chip. So in total, that's like 7% chip. But it does leave you at minus 10 within that range, so characters like Jax can punish you, but I believe that's about it. Even if I put him on shoulder charge. Oh, whoops. Blocking after a machine gun's kind of hard. Alright, so yeah, I mean, against most characters, even like Kung Lao, it pushes back so far that it can't be punished. But just, know your enemy, know your opponent, and know what they can and can't punish. Let's see. One thing, if you do have meter and you're okay kind of wasting a bar, then you could do 1, 2, 1, 2 meter burn missile. If I put him on block, always, dead, jump, you can kind of see how plus this is. Well, don't do that, come on. Alright, so see how early I'm jumping as opposed to him? So, that's a really safe way to train your opponent to know that you can do 1, 2, 1, 2, that. It wastes a meter, but if it does hit, then you still get your combo. If I do just up missile, you still get 33% even if they block the whole string and only the up missile hit. So that's just a great kind of thing to do. Let me look at my guide here and see if there's anything else that needs covering. Again, you can do the same stuff as the forward one. So you can do forward 1, 2, backdash, all that good stuff. So just forward 1 or 1, 2, 1, 2. Just practice with it, experiment with it. So much good stuff. Okay, let's see. The same with forward 1, 2. The only thing you really need to worry about are armored moves. So if I do 1, 2, 1, and then I try to do a 1, 2, 1, 2, but he armors through, that can catch you. But like a lot of characters can't really get through it. I don't know. You don't have to worry about it too much. The only thing is that right now there's an option select in this game where if you hold block, and mash out a poke. If you look at my input, so I'm holding block and I'm still mashing out my poke. The poke will come out as soon as there's a gap. So check this out. Alright, he's blocking, he's poking, poke, 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 poke. Still poking, still poking, still poking. Alright. So, if I do forward 1, 2, he automatically pokes afterwards. Alright, he's still blocking, but he automatically pokes. Luckily his poke is down 3. It's kind of slow. And it's not 100% consistent, but for the most part, if you're blocking and you mash out a poke, it's going to come out. So, that messes up everything that I just showed you. Alright, there's a chance it's going to get patched out. I've heard that it's supposed to get patched out, but for right now, if you do notice that your opponent is doing that option select, then you can't use that pressure. What you can do, though, is that 1, 2, 1, 2, back, forward, 4, there's a very, very, very tiny gap between the 1, 2, 1, 2 and the back, forward, 4. It's not enough to actually punish, but it is enough to trick the computer into thinking that you stopped. So if you notice your opponent is automatically poking, you do 1, 2, 1, 2, back, forward, 4, and it's still not 100% consistent. Well, there we go. But if their option select is working correctly, then that'll catch them out of it. That also works if I set him to always block, but do reversal. Let's say shoulder charge. I can do 1, 2, 1, 2. Oops, that's the armored one, and they can armor through it. Here we go, shoulder push. 1, 2, 1, 2. Bam. So that'll still hit. All right. So, you know, it's all about training your opponent, reading your opponent, trying to know what they're going to do. It is dangerous. You can still do 1, 2, 1, 2 meter burn up rocket, and that'll catch them, and that can be good if you have meter. If you don't have meter, I'd recommend probably not doing that, just because it is minus 30 on block. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off there for the 1, 2, 1, 2 pressure and the forward 1, 2 and all that good stuff. That's just kind of how she can pressure her opponent while she's up in their face. We already covered dash cancels from, you know, her full screen pressure when you're doing all that. So let's say you get your knockdown, then what? Alright, so that's her Oki. So going back to my philosophy of totally safe with low reward to less safe with more of a reward, when you get that knockdown, you want to train your opponent that they can't wake up with armor, okay? And luckily, all of Jacqui's combos end in back forward 4, which is that hard knockdown, which leaves them right there. Okay. So it's very consistent. Like, they're always going to be at that exact distance, which is great. So, when they're down at that distance and you're plus 10, well, her machine gun only has a 14 frame startup, which means they're 4 frames ahead of you if you do a machine gun, okay? Most characters, let's see, I haven't really experimented against Jason too much, but let's go back to that armored shoulder charge, okay? Oops, not reversal, I won't wake up. Not the right one. No, here we go. Alright, so I do that. And and machine gun. Alright, see how that beats his armor out? I only deal, 6% damage, sometimes 7 if the whole thing connects. But he's wasted a meter, okay? So you want to keep doing that. As long as your opponent has meter, you just want to keep antagonizing them with machine gun on wake up until they stop wasting their meter. You know that you've properly trained your opponent when they have meter, but they're not waking up with armor, okay? So, you get your knockdown, and you machine gun. Alright, so you gotta be careful, you gotta know your ranges. Like, Jax can punish that from about that range. So you do have to be careful with Jax. You want to make sure that you get, a bit further back, so he's harder to pressure. But so, you finally get your opponent trained so they're not waking up with armor. That's when you can start really having fun. And this also applies if your opponent doesn't have meter, then you can just go ham and do whatever you want. So, that leaves them at that range, alright? That will sometimes with her back 2. So I like to do forward 3, back 2. and then forward 3, back 4. Alright? So those are both a little slow, so you do have to be careful, but that leaves you plus 10, and that's, let's see, 17 frames, and the other one is 23, I believe. So you still only have a very small amount of time to react. 16 frames. So if this is correct, it's only 16 frames. Which doesn't seem right. Oh, actually, yeah, that's pretty close. Alright, so either way, your opponent has less than 10 frames to react, okay? You do have to watch out for delayed wake-ups. So you get your hard knockdown, and then forward 3, back 2, forward 3, back 4. There's a high overhead and low that both lead to solid meterless damage and very good 1 meter damage. Again, just meter burn rocket, 3, 3, back, forward, 4. If you're laggy and you're having trouble connecting that 3, 3, you can just do 1, 3. And that'll, I mean, I've never seen that not connect. You do lose, 4% damage, but that's not a huge deal. I'd rather lose that 4% damage than lose the entire second half of that combo, Okay, so the other thing is they're minus 10, which means you can do a run-up throw. It is, like, they can poke out of it, but it's hard to react to, so that's always an option. Alright, and so literally since every one of your combos ends with that, then that constantly puts them back in that situation where you get to choose what you want to do to them. The only time you have to be careful is in the corner. A lot of people will armor just out of desperation, even if you train them not to. So you still have to be careful, but a lot of them, like Kung Jin from point blank range, you can break all of his armored wake-ups with a well-timed machine gun. So the only other thing you have to be aware of is risk versus reward. And I'm going to actually switch to demonstrate this because I'm not familiar with Jason. Okay, let's go to Kano. Should have grabbed a glass of water or something before I started this. Okay, so on Oki, you want to be aware of your risk versus reward. So Kano, if I put him on wake up, uprise ball, okay, and I get my knockdown, and I go for that back 2, well, he dealt 10% damage to me, but I dealt 7% to him, so he only gained a net of 3% health over me. Even if it fails and I don't deal the damage, he still only deals 10%. He doesn't get anything off of that, alright? Except maybe, now the game is slightly in his favor. But he deals 10% if I fail. If I succeed, I get my 37%. So overall, that is a giant skew towards Jacqui. Like, the risk versus reward is just hands down in her favor. So you can kind of go ham, If I mess up, I get hit for 10% damage. If he messes up, he gets hit for 37%, alright? So that's great. So she can go nuts against Kano. But against someone like, say, Kung Jin, who can get over 30% damage off of his armored wake-up, then you gotta start being more careful. So it's all about knowing your opponent, being able to assess the risk versus reward. You always want to keep the risk versus reward in your favor. That's why I love starting out with, dash canceling into more guns, just because it's totally safe, there's no risk. The reward is 7% damage or 5% chip, and it makes your opponent frustrated, so they make more mistakes. It makes them know they have to respect it, so then when you do run in, you can start getting other stuff started. Alright? So just know your opponent, know what they can do, know the risk versus reward, and be ready to mix them up on Wake Up. So I hope that helps. I know I rambled quite a bit. If I think of anything else, I'll be covering it in a 5th guide, just to kind of cover, any new setups I learned from her meter burn rocket, that kind of stuff. So anyway, thanks for watching. It doesn't look like I have any questions on Twitch, so I might do like an AMA later just to cover stuff about Jacqui, but that's all I got for now.